For one of the first videos on this new channel, we wanted to start a series on interesting characters and events from history that are essentially summaries or overviews, as well as synopses on mythical or legendary figures. For this pilot episode, I will be going over the Numero Uno Rex Anglorum, Æthelstan, king of all the English, as well as the Rex Totius Brittanae, king of all Britain. Starting off, Æthelstan was the first child of King Edward of Wessex and his first wife, Egwin. Commonly regarded as a simple outsider from Mercia, adopted by his aunt, King Alfred's daughter, who was married to Mercia's heir, Æthelstan in fact had a degree of knowledge of Mercian statesmanship and internal politics, giving him an edge in later years. On the topic of this aunt, Æthelflaed was also often known as the Lady of Mercia, leading the people of the borderlands to battle alongside her brother in Wessex. Across a 5-year period, the two of them successfully occupied multiple forts and baronies, as well as going on to defeat a larger force surrounding Jorvik, or often called the Kingdom of York. Now, Æthelstan, he was originally set to become the King of Mercia, not Wessex, though his brother had, in heavy parentheses, unfortunately died just 3 weeks after their own father's death. How convenient. However, the period following was one of turmoil and uncertainty. The West Saxon crown would not be so easily obtained until his coronation in 925. Following this coronation, the next 2 years saw warring and the eventual annexation of the last truly Viking state in Jorvik. This would cement Æthelstan's rule over what is now known as England. Finally, the concept of unification would be fulfilled, and Alfred's legacy succeeded. Æthelstan wasn't yet ready to rest, however, and would go on to force Constantine II of the Scots to submit to him, becoming yet another tributary for the annals of the Anglo-Saxons, for a time, at least. For rather obvious reasons, I don't know why, being the subject of a foreign ruler seems kind of best, Constantine, the Scandinavians under his rule, and the Lord of Strathclyde all attempted an offensive in 937. This large force had garnered concern for the future of this now new united England, though the Battle of Brunanburh would set aside these concerns and now garner fame for Æthelstan. Prestige on both the continent as well as in the British Isles. He had managed to unite both Mercia and Wessex under one notably dominant West Saxon flag, brung back York under English yoke, forced the Scots to submit to him, and defeated a seemingly significant force of local lords, Scots and Vikings in little over a decade. For the first time, lords on the mainland could see an equal in the English king, far opposed from the relationship between Arthur of Mercia and Charles the Great. Not you, Charlie, the caller Charles, in which Charlemagne had seen Arthur as simply a petty king who saw himself grander than what he was truly worth, though there's more to that than there seems. Back to Æthelstan, he appears to have inherited his father's general knack for knowledge, learning, scholarship, and so on and so forth, as well as his overall cunning. Now, several laws were integrated from previous petty kings of England, both an attempt to cement his rule over the Anglo-Saxons, but also to display a general degree of shrewd thought in order to expand his nation into a much more codified state with laws, rules, charters, etc., which was really needed for this newfound state that covered such a vast territory. Now, on the topic of charters, he employed several clerks to document and record events, histories, et.al., which were stationed throughout England, opposing Alfred's own clerks who mostly simply resided with him. Now, much of the coinage minted at the time depicted him as the King of all Britain, Rex Totius Brittanae, as well as a note of this in aforementioned charters, though it would appear as though this title was short-lived, as he would go on to die 2 years after the Battle of Brunanburh. Common English L. Now, an interesting relationship would develop between Æthelstan and several notable figures. Two of these are Louis the Simple and Håkon the Good, the former of which seeks refuge in England during a somewhat tumultuous time in Francia, and was supported by Æthelstan, who, in the last year of his reign, would rather unsuccessfully go on to raid several coastal territories across West Francia. Now, in regards to Hakon, Æthelstan had a good relationship with Harald the Fairhair, or Fine Hair, and would in fact adopt his son, Hakon, who would later go on to become the King of Norway from 934 to 961. Now, interestingly, Hakon would also be known as Hakon Æthelstan Forster, Hakon who was fostered by Æthelstan, essentially. A pretty cool note, really, that sheds light on Æthelstan's prestige at the time, that even a future King of Norway would also be known for being fostered by him. Now, unfortunately, Æthelstan left behind no children to rule over his hard-fought state of England, though, luckily for everyone, Edmund Ironside, his half-brother, would rule following his elder brother's death, though would face yet another period of warring and potential catastrophe that this tumultuous time in Britain was known for. Anyways, that's a quick synopsis on Æthelstan in 5 minutes, which is it leaves out a lot of information. But for this sort of this pilot episode, it's a good idea to help me learn to produce these sort of videos more. I mean, the script itself was written months ago, it was actually recorded, edited, so on and so forth, but I felt like this is a good little foundation to work off for this little series we've got going. And that's really Æthelstan, an important figure in the foundation and cementing of the concept of a unified England. He managed to bring Wessex, Mercia, and the remnants of Saxon Northumbria under his rule, dominating the surrounding territories of Strathclyde, the Kingdom of the Scots, as well as having Cornwall as a client state. Which, for this time, especially in like Western European history, it's very impressive, and you can see why even Hakon would be known for being fostered by Æthelstan. It's just, he is such an incredible figure to study and to talk about, which I want to talk about him a bit more, but for this video, I think that's suitable enough. Anyways, thank you for watching, and we will have more content on the way.